In 2009, Hasbro made a daring move to shrink down their Marvel Legends figures. This move had several moments of success and utter failure, but gave us a lot of interesting figures. So this series is going to take a look at various lines and figures that would ultimately become known as Marvel Universe. In 2009, the Marvel Universe began with a line dedicated to the movie X-Men Origins Wolverine, released shortly before the Marvel Universe proper line. Most people would probably have seen both of these on the shelves at the same time, for the, what at the time, ridiculous price of $9.99. Keeping in mind, too, that while this line was on the shelf, such lines as Indiana Jones, G.I. Joe, and Star Wars were hovering around the $5 mark. However, one cannot deny that these were pretty good figures. Now, that pricing faux pas did get straightened out a few months later, but I do think it hurt the initial launch. It's a bit pricey, and people kind of shied away from it. In addition to Wolverine Origins and Marvel Universe, they also launched Wolverine and the X-Men, which honestly was a series of glorified statues for the most part, and sometimes often gets confused with Wolverine Origins. But Wolverine Origins did an interesting thing. They had both comic-based and movie-based figures. Now, of course, I gravitated much more to the comic-based figures because comics is where I get my knowledge of these characters. The first wave was an interesting assortment. Of course, you had the title character Wolverine in his classic tiger stripe uniform. The paint deco on this figure is really good. The only real knock you can ever give to it is that the shoulder pads do prevent his arms from rising up. This was not the case with the brown suit Wolverine, probably his second most popular outfit. The figure looks really good, and honestly, for the time it was produced, is one of the better 1/18 scale Wolverines ever made. There was also a Weapon X Wolverine, which was supposed to represent Wolverine when he was first bonded with the adamantium and basically created the character. This one is okay, but has a few issues, not the least of which is how odd he looks without his helmet on. There was a civilian version of Wolverine and a variant with bone claws, which was interesting. In addition, comic renditions of figures that appeared in the movies also appeared in the line. For instance, Gambit. This is one of two Gambits ever appearing in the Marvel Universe line. There is, of course, Wolverine's enemy Sabretooth, and a much more savage, I dare say barbaric, look for him. There was also the ever-popular Deadpool. This was his first figure, and honestly, one of his best. Now, I never bought the Logan or Strike Mission Wolverine. Those didn't appeal to me. But the rest, I thought were okay. For some reason, I ended up with this guy who was shoehorned in, Maverick. Now, somebody said he's in the movie. I'm like, where? Anyway, he got put into this set, and is, as such, is a part of it. Now, the second wave dealt with more of the movie figures. Now, I pretty much stayed away from the movie figures because, well, they weren't good. The Logan from the movie had a very odd webbed set of claws. I don't understand that at all. Wave 3 gave us a few more options, like Cyclops. This is one of the more interesting Cyclops figures in this scale ever, as he had a plug-in optic beam. And what was even better, you take the plug-in out and it didn't look half bad. I did have this Cyclops at one point, but I think he was stolen. We won't get into that right now. There was, of course, Iceman, who he was nowhere reason to be in this line. He was never in the movie, but here he is. And honestly, is one of the better Icemans in any scale figure form that has ever been done. Marvel Legends team, take a lesson from this line. This is how you do Iceman. And of course, Unmasked Wolverine, which really didn't have a point, but is in the line anyway. The last wave only saw one figure, Colossus. and he proved to be the hardest to find figure in the line. Demand finally started going down for him when he was released into the Marvel Universe line proper. There were a couple of 2-packs like Blob and Sabretooth and Wolverine and Colossus. The Wolverine in the Colossus pack was his astonishing X-Men uniform, which a lot of people gravitated to. I never saw either one of these 2-packs, and in the aftermarket that I've seen, they're a little pricey. And then there were some deluxe packs, Weapon X, Deadpool, Wolverine on a motorcycle, and a Toys R Us exclusive of Sabretooth and Wolverine. Again, saw very few of these, so no point. Now, as far as the movie figures go, the only 2 I ever got, one was a gift, and one I almost regret buying. I did buy it on clearance for $1, but later I kind of liked the fact that I bought it. That would be Sabretooth and Deadpool. Deadpool, of course, that action figure made a very funny appearance in the Deadpool movie when stuff went sideways. Look carefully, it's there. But he looks a lot more like Baraka from Mortal Kombat, and he's just kind of funny, and I really bought him for the novelty more than anything. From my understanding, I haven't looked this up on the secondary market, but this one now goes for quite a bit, and I could not explain why. That was about it for the Wolverine Origins line. At the time, it seemed like an abysmal failure, but when you look later into the line of Marvel Universe, you realize this was a pretty good success. That Deadpool mold gets reused a couple of times. That Wolverine mold becomes a standard Wolverine. They had to be doing something right for that to happen. The only other Gambit is based off this same mold as well. So yeah, there was something going on with this line. It wasn't quite there yet, but it was a good first shot. I do think Wolverine in the X-Men line did bring it down a lot, especially when you look at how awful those figures were. I mean, those were Happy Meal toys that were way overpriced. And at the end of the year, it was a little bit of a question on whether Marvel Universe would continue. Well, it most certainly did. But we'll get into that a little more on our next episode. For now, this has been the Wolverine Origins line. Hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to like and subscribe.